welcome to our final. We saved the best for last here for the Talent Brand Summit Q&As. With me, I have Miss Dina Medeiros. Hello, Dina.
Hello, Will. How's it going?
Oh, it's going good now I'm talking to you. I am really excited to, one, have you as a facilitator, because I've known you for many years in the industry, not exactly on the employer brand side, but still someone that I always saw as like very knowledgeable in the space. I think we met when you were at LinkedIn, correct?
Yep.
Yeah.
Probably, God, maybe 2012, 13, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Lots changed since then. Tell us what you've been up to. Tell us what's your current role?
Okay.
And what was sort of your path to employer branding?
Sure. So I'm currently the Director of Talent Attraction at Blizzard Entertainment. I've been here a little over a year now. I've got my feet under me, so really good about the foundation that we, created in the first year, and we have so much more to do, which I'm actually really excited about. So I don't think listening to the other speakers, who hopefully all of you have listened to as well, it's really interesting all the different pathways that people got into this role. So I've been in the space for, I want to say 20 years, which really ages me, but yeah, about 20 years. And I started my career in marketing, and I started at a career fair company where I was responsible for marketing 136 career fairs in 36 cities across North America.
Whoa.
And by myself. And I learned PowerPoint through tears and like creating ads and getting them to the newspaper and thinking about it was for salespeople. So where do salespeople look, and kind of changing that dynamic. And so I started there, and then fast forwarding to how do we get foot traffic? And that's back in the day of Monster, the Monster board. And I started thinking about ways to reduce costs and increase reach. And so I called this Monster board people, and they came in, and I was super interested in advertising on their site. And so fast forward, the person that was my rep at the time was fantastic. And I was like, I kind of want your job. He's like, you have my job. I don't have a job. There's only one of us in all of California. And I was like, well, I like this. We ended up buying the homepage of monster.com for 6 months because there was no competition. And so that just got me deeper and deeper into internet advertising for recruiting. And so I kind of just followed my path that way. Eventually that person became a manager and called me and said, come. So I was at Monster from 2000 to 2004. And then I just, went on a journey from there. So I've worked at Ayers, I've worked at Bernard Hodis, and then I went to LinkedIn in 2011 pre-IPO and really dug in to recruitment marketing, if you will.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I love a lot of the folks that we talk to have a background in, traditional marketing or sales, and it, and again, and I said this in the last one with James, but I love the fact that the folks that sort of gravitated to this role come from those backgrounds, because you really need all those different skill sets. You need to understand talent acquisition. You have to understand the principles of the digital marketing. And then you have to be able to sell that internally, because I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm constantly selling the value of employer branding.
Yep.
How is that? How are you doing that kind of at Blizzard? And is it different than, the kind of how you approached selling it when you were selling it as a product?
It's interesting. So my sales background is invaluable, right? It has been by far the best skill. We all believe in waitressing or retail, some kind of service. I definitely believe in that. But if you have an opportunity to truly sell something you believe in, is the key point. It's been invaluable. And the reason is all of my clients, and seeing how they needed stuff to be positioned to be the champion, and learning all the different ways that different companies had to bring this to get it done or not get it done. And so taking some of that knowledge and learning from my clients, my peers now, who are brilliant in understanding their strengths, and also where, if you say employer branding, in many situations, it's the first thing to get cut. And so what I took from that is data-driven, executive presentations, executive summary. What are we trying to do? And really that's why I know everyone has a different opinion, but for me, talent attraction makes a lot of sense because employer branding is a pillar underneath that, where I can talk about employer branding, I can talk about recruitment marketing, and I can talk about social and storytelling and an authentic voice. But really, at the end of the day, if you just say employer branding, they're like, well, things will still move forward if we don't do employer branding. And they're right, because you never had it before. We're doing just fine. Why do we need it? Where if you back into it with data and say, okay, this is how many people, you show them, this is the share of voice on XYZ, and we're only touching this, and this is what we can do. And I'd like to tell stories and they're like, oh, I get it. They come along with you, and you roll up to the business needs, right? So at the end of the day, it's about the business needs and reminding them what it might have been like to be a candidate too. So anyway, so yeah, I've definitely taken my experience of selling internally, but also just always remembering about everybody's journey and just reminding them. I always love to go to meetings and I'm like, okay, I know you love working here, but tomorrow you can't work here anymore. You can't work here anymore. Like, what are you going to do? And then they start thinking. And so then I just say, okay, that's great. That's one of the things I want to do. And then you ask the other guy in the room or girl in the room, and she says something different. And you're like, right. So you just bring them along the journey, and it's just a lot easier for them to digest versus, spreadsheets and dollars and assets.
Yeah, and I like that you have your title as talent attraction, because words do matter. Like, especially in this kind of growing field where there's a lot of new terms. I've seen others use talent brand, which is within that you have recruitment marketing, employer branding, and employee engagement kind of pillars. Because again, even all that's related. Like employer branding is very much an employee engagement and internal communication thing. And then I love how you talked about, kind of getting everyone to your peers together when you were in those roles. And that's really how you learned to like a lot of the pain points for your clients. Like, I think that's a great segue into what we're doing with Talent Brand Summit, right? It's getting all these peers, these folks that are figuring it out at their companies too. A lot of them like the first employer brand person at a company, or they started like me, like at VMware back in 2010, where I started as like the social media guy for talent attraction. And then we started to realize, well, we need more than just social. We got to do all these other things too. Tell us, like, what kind of excites you about, the event that we're having in June with Talent Brand Summit?
I'm really, truly excited. It's so cliche, but to learn from everyone there, but even the facilitators, right? So as we've come up, you guys have hosted calls, which have been great. And really everyone has strengths and weaknesses. And they're not actually weaknesses, it's just stuff they haven't learned yet. Or they're at a company that they never had to think that way before. So I'm excited to learn about not just what's working, but like, successes and failures from people, but also how'd you get it across the line, tips and tricks. I think a lot of the times we talk about the end, but we don't talk about the beginning. And I think the beginning is what all of us are wanting to know in whatever we're facing. So like I just kicked off an EVP for the first time. I've never done it. I know the value. I believe in it. I understand the principle. And what I thought was right, kind of going through it all, I feel really comfortable about what I'm doing. With that said, calling Charlotte, calling Carrie, and like, hey, this is what I'm thinking. Does this sound right? Still going to do what I'm going to do, but it's great having our peers to bounce ideas off of, and we still make our decisions, but getting input that you value is again, invaluable.
I agree. And then what's kind of also great about this event is there's people from so many different industries where they have, like, for their industry, somewhat unique problems that they find solutions for that could be totally transferable to other industries. Like, we've got big manufacturers like being represented, big tech companies, obviously like Dell, and
Yeah.
HomeAway. But we've also got like Southwest Airlines, like airline industry, that's a totally different thing. Yeti Cooler, a lot more of like consumer product type of companies. Blizzard would be, I would consider that as sort of a consumer
Yep.
software company, right? And so I'm just really excited to see how everyone's tackling it in these other industries that maybe I haven't even had, experience in, but because we're going to come together, I'm going to get exposure to that, which
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but like creativity is literally taking two seemingly different things and being able to create something new. And I think when you got this many varied backgrounds and
Yeah.
varied levels in their roles too, like we have people coming that they just took this EV job and it's like the first one out of school and they're learning
Right.
everything. And then we have folks that have been doing this, like Brian Cheney. Gosh, he's been doing
Yeah.
talent branding since 2004, right? And
Right.
so I agree. I think this is going to be really exciting what we can learn. What about some of the extracurricular activities? It's like I kind of, what I love about this format is it's one part retreat. Like someone
Yeah.
called it a summer
Yeah.
camp for
Yeah.
for talent branders. Yeah, I love
I
it.
think that, yeah, the thing that's going to be about the activities besides the activities themselves is,
Yeah,
I think every conference you go to, the hallway conversations are almost as valuable as whatever's being facilitated. And
yeah,
so I think, whether it's s'mores or axe throwing, there's going to be idle time where you can follow up from something maybe you heard from someone. I feel like there's going to be time between the structure. And I
yeah,
think that whether it's an internal meeting, I don't know about you, but every summit that I have internal with my company, I'm always like, so and so was here from, the UK and I got 5 minutes with her. So it's the same thing going to these conferences, some of my peers that I want to get to know better or I want to talk to. So it'll be fun, it'll be team building, but there's also going to be time for kind of hallway conversations. So I'm excited about that.
yeah. And what I think a lot of people don't know is we're actually going to be facilitating those connections. So when everybody registers, we ask them like, who do you want to meet? Are you looking for like a mentor, a peer, things like that? And then we're knowing what kind of experience level everyone's on and trying to pair people up. But and the reason we kind of had this idea to make it sort of a retreat with some fun activities is uh, there's one thing to go to a conference and meet over a happy hour, but it's something about a shared experience with someone where you're doing something kind of adventurous like archery or like throwing hatchets that it sort of solidifies a relationship. It elevates the sort of the occasion, and you start to really build good memories and great relationships out of it. I don't know about you, but like whenever I've gone on a trip with a friend, like I went with Lars Schmidt for his 40th, like Costa Rica, like four-wheeling through
Right.
through the jungle, and like the dude's my bro now because we've gone through some
Right.
things together, you know.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to help create that for more people in the industry,
Yeah, and I think that the other thing that's kind of cool about that is a lot of us know each other by name or, on social, but you don't maybe, I don't want to say trust and like that I distrust, but you just don't really, you can't form what that person might really be like. So when you see their feedback on something, it's hard to take stock in it, good or bad, because you don't really know where in which they're coming, right? You don't
That's
really
so
know
true.
them. So I think kind of like learning the personality and almost our own stories, right? The irony around EV, like what's our story? And then what's the story that we're telling? And you could say, well, I can see why Dina cares about that and why she wouldn't care about that because I get it. Or Dina's really strong in media, right? Like recruitment marketing is my jam. I got that, but I can see where she might be weak here and why she's always asking these questions because they start to know our strengths and where we can help and where we need help.
I love it because we're not always posting on Twitter and Facebook when we're failing. Like
Right.
it's the good things, right? And that's fine. That's a good part of social media, but it doesn't really get you to know people. And I
Right.
think that's also another great thing about this format is we're going to be there with the intention of sharing the good, the bad, the mistakes, the failures, so that we can kind of all learn from it. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
All right, now let's talk about your session. You're talking about, you're going to be helping to facilitate a discussion around channel strategy. So
Yeah.
tell me, like, what are some learnings that people are going to get out of the conversation? What can you expect attendees to sort of take away from the session you're facilitating?
Well, I think channel strategies is so incredibly broad, which is awesome and also a little bit scary. So I think that I'll say this, and I don't know, you came from social media, it's channel strategy and just thinking about what we do for a living, but also like, oh, you're the social media girl, right? And you're like, well, yeah. So it's
I
actually
remember
thinking about,
that.
right? Well, and I don't get that a lot, but like even my team, like I'm like, no, fix that. Don't say that. Don't let that be the word, right? So I think from a channel strategy, really identifying what channel strategy is, what it can be. I'm not defining it, but what is it for your role? And so some people may have a very, small slice, and others may be like, I'm in charge of all of it. And so I think you can slice it different ways, right? You can channel strategy kind of from a social perspective, from a persona perspective. You can do it from a recruitment marketing perspective. You can do it, you can do it from an employee advocacy perspective, right? Brand ambassadors.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's almost like foundational, like what are the foundational strategies for your world? If you only had 3 things that you could do in your role, what would they be and why, right? Thinking about that. And then I know some of the other sessions are around like creating content. So how do you think about, the work that you've already done about creating content? How do you leverage some of that content for your channel strategy? And then, how do you kind of, going back to the beginning of our conversation, is how do you sell a channel strategy, right? Like for us, it's kind of nature, but if you're bringing something, whether it's a new, like we did Instagram for the first time this last year, I had to go sell that. That had been shut down years before I got here. And, what did I do to sell it? How did I sell it? Why did it matter? I can explain that, right? And we've done some other things that have been failures. So we've admitted those failures so people trust us. And we say, this didn't work, we're taking it away. And they're like, oh, they can edit themselves.
Yeah,
right?
I think we've all
Yeah.
like sunsetted a channel or two
Total.
in our careers. And I think you're hitting it spot on. It's sort of, it is a very broad topic, and that's why we gave it to you, because we know you could tackle such a thing. Because I know for most people, when they think like a marketing channel strategy, they typically do go right to social, because it's sort of in the language to call it like social channels. But the fact is any mode of getting your message out is a channel, right? Like you said, this could be one of the channels could be the intranet site where all the information goes and is shared by employees. A channel could be career fairs and events. That's one sort of channel of getting a message out and pulling in leads, right? And so when I talk to clients about a multi-channel strategy, it's because there's still a lot of companies out there that are using a very limited amount of channels. They pretty much have like their career site and job boards, the recruitment marketing side of it, right? And then within job boards, there's a bunch of channels like Indeed,
Right.
LinkedIn. And so it is a little bit of, broad, but I think it's also meaningful because each channel has sort of its KPIs that we're going to discuss, like how do you measure it, how do you sell it. So I'm super excited about your session. That one and content kind of go hand in hand. So it'll be interesting what we talk about in content, and then how you can kind of bring it into the channel discussion. I'm kind of remember which one comes first.
I think content does, because I was thinking about that. I'll for sure find out, but I might connect with Charlotte to see what she's thinking and maybe how we can pull it through. might
Yep.
be something
She's
interesting
before.
to think about.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
before lunch and you're right after. So
great.
that'd
I
be
want everyone to have coffee, please, caffeine.
cool. That's why we put you at the lunch, because we know you're gonna get everybody up.
Right.
Yeah. Yep, at 1:30 on day 2. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah,
Great.
looking forward to it.
Man, I'm looking forward to it as well, and having some s'mores with you by the fire, and catching up on your role there. Um, all right, I'm gonna let you get back to that beautiful Southern California weather, and I
Thank you.
appreciate you. You guys, we have like pretty limited. I think we're 2/3 of the way sold out here, and we still have like 2 months until the event. So grab your
Yeah.
ticket while you can. Maybe make a friend with one of our facilitators, because they might have a pretty nice discount code for you if you do. Like Dina.
Yeah, and I have a, yep, you can use, I'm with Dina as your code if you'd like. And then I have a tip for you if you are trying to get this through in your org. So most of us have pretty small teams. And so because you usually can't learn from a peer internally, your own growth sometimes has to happen externally. And so to point that out usually to your manager for your own personal growth, that you want to learn and everything, but quite frankly, there's no one in the org that does what you do, that you have to be the expert, seems to work. So
Oh, Dina, that's so good and true.
that a shot. But it wasn't trying to sell it. It's true. It's how I started thinking about it, which is you have to go to these events because that's where the people that are doing things that you're gonna do are at. You gotta go talk to them.
Agreed. And and you can. I kind of naturally did that way. I started kind of networking with people on social, and then going to a lot of recruiting events. But I mean, there weren't a lot of just the people doing just what I did. I had to really seek out and find it. I mean, but if you're an EB or talent acquisition leadership and you come to Talent Brand, you are in a room full of everyone else who does what you do in a pretty niche profession. So thank you so much, Dina. I love chatting with you.
It was great. Have a great weekend, and I will see you all in June.
All right. We'll see ya.